This story is about a neckbeard nicknamed Pony Fetish, PF for short. PF was a huge social butterfly, always happy and cheerful, a total facade, and talked with everyone, jocks, nerds, goths, and emo kids. Our group was mostly emotionally vulnerable emo and nerdy people in junior high, and he got along well with teachers and staff, despite having some of the worst grades imaginable, all allowing him to barely pass junior high. Now, I think PF is a weird genetically modified neckbeard. He seemed to be a cross between a Chad and a neckbeard, since he could put on the act of a Chad, but in private and with friends, he was a full-on brony furry who watched hentai and had body pillows and anime figurines. I went to his house one time in the future. Big mistake. And he tried to pin me down on his bed next to a literal Madoka Magica body pillow. I wish I was joking. The only thing that saved me was his sweet mom barging in and driving me home. I don't know how he manages to put on a popular guy facade, but he rocks in acting. He should go into theater. Oh, wait, he did. We always talked, played stupid stuff like Minecraft. It's 2012, give me a break. And hung out after school. I liked how he always gave me attention since I'm a slut for validation, and he always pet my head for some reason or stroked my thigh. I didn't care and have never really talked to boys before, so I thought this was normal, but I still felt a little uncomfortable, but since it made him happy, I let it slide. He and I were good friends, and we were always together in junior high school, usually hanging out between classes. My school was very nice back then and gave us 10 to 15 minutes between classes, and this gave the girls time to change before PE, since the school had PE every period, but alternating classes through. Now, PF would wait for me outside the locker room, and I'd get out in my PE uniform, and he always makes some flirty comment. I'm still very dumb and like the attention, but after a while, he'd start to spank my butt or grope my chest or butt, and I still did not know that this was so weird, and I'd laugh it off. PF constantly complained about wanting a girlfriend but not knowing where to find the right one. He always did this in front of me and other girls, and we could all see it made each other sad, but none of us could speak out and say we want him to ask us out. Kind of out of girl code not to usurp each other's crush. He constantly did things to keep us girls in check to make us feel like we were in a close and intimate relationship, but at the same time saying things or doing things to keep that I'm not in a committed relationship, so I can get away with things single guys can do, like constantly flirting with all of us. He often grabbed other girls' butts and chests, saying things like, "Wow, you're so amazing here, wish it was all mine," etc., and made other girls leave him Harem and report him for sexual harassment, but nothing ever came from it, since he was a social pariah with the people in the office. There were a few guys in my friend group who were good friends with PF, and they all had girlfriends, but soon they all hated him because PF's flirting knew absolutely no bounds whatsoever. He flirted with their girlfriends right in front of them. PF was threatened a lot because he flirted with girls who were in a relationship and were outside of our circle of friends, and now I'm realizing that I have the rose-colored glasses off. But he was such a wimp. He cowered at the sight of conflict and just wanted to add more girls to his collection, but he only showed that side of himself to me because I said once that I like it when a guy shows me his emotions. We all entered high school. One of the main events that kind of just broke my image of him was when he called for people to actively murder me in the 8th grade. I admit I was somewhat in the wrong for this, but everyone in our group had somewhat morbid sense of humor, and I thought we would all be used to stuff like this, so it might be my fault for assuming. In pre-algebra class one day, I tried to give him a high five, and I stuck one of those colored thumbtack push pins. You know, those corkboard tacks kind of shaped like a chess pawn without the ball on top, between my fingers, and I held it up and said, "Hey, PF, high five!" in the most sarcastic voice I could, with a kind of expression like I was waiting for laughter, since he had done the same thing to me and other people earlier in the week. If he had actually tried to high five me, I would have pulled my hand away at lightning speed because I hate hurting people. Now, the pin was very obvious since it was a bright blue standing between my pale skin, and he just frowned at me awkwardly, put my hand down like, "What?" And he started screaming at the top of his lungs that I tried to murder him. Keep in mind, we are in the middle of class, and he starts acting like I tried to cut his throat, screaming, "How dare you!" And by the end of the day, people were telling me to go to hell and kill myself, or else they would kill me too. People I did not even know. That was how much social influence he had. I apologized to him publicly, sweating bullets, being pressured to do so by people who were actually following me home, and he said he forgave me, and I cried right in front of him as he held me to his sweaty chest with a death grip, thinking it was all my fault. I know it was a lot of manipulation at the time, but I just wanted the death threats to stop, and he was currently the only way to do that. Sadly for PF, I got real tired of him real quick, since he always had other girls after him, and I hated feeling that I had to compete with other girls, and I gave up on him romantically. I've mentioned before that I like anime a lot, and we talked about that frequently, and he always recommended anime since we were still friends, but not important. PF also harassed me regularly to cosplay his favorite MLP character or girls from Splatoon or other video games he played. I'd watch them, and after about 3 or 4 animes, I noticed a similar plot theme. Fan service, big titties, and harems. Now, just disclaiming, I'm a small girl who can appreciate girls with big boobs. I don't get triggered by them, and I consider myself a little bi, so hell, I don't care, and I'm desensitized by it now. I noticed, and I saw a little connection. He is so suave because he watches harem anime and acts the same as the guys in them. He even spouted some stupid shit like pickup lines or those touching moments from Sekirei and from Infant Stratos where the guy gets the girl's heart. All the animes he recommended to me. I felt disgusted that this guy had been playing these women, and I knew full well that he planned on trying to get with them, all because how he treated me before. I decided to just be friends and let it slide, since now that I gave up on him, his relationship activities were not my issue. He didn't like this and put more charms on me, trying to get me to rejoin his harem once he saw me sitting with other guys and flirting back with them, and not to him. He started inviting me out to his house more, which I would decline, and would ask me to play more online games with him, and I would generally accept, since it meant that I would not have to be near him physically. He is still kind of tubby by now, but not an unhealthy tubby, just a soft tummy and a thick boy body, but he is still kind of constantly smelled like cologne and B.O. I did not ever really want a boyfriend, but he started actually asking me out, a last-ditch effort, I assumed, to keep me in his harem, and I knew he didn't want a girlfriend because then all the fun times would end, so I decided to say yes and call his shit bluff. He sounded surprised I said yes, and sputtered before faking a happy yay, and then shortly after leaving home for dinner at 5 o'clock. It took him 3 days to break up with me because he didn't think he was ready for a girlfriend after all, and wanted to treat me like the princess I was once he had a job and a car. I knew the reason why he broke up with me was because I caused more collateral damage to his harem by joining back into it than I would have by leaving it. I told every girl he knew that we were dating now, and that they should be happy after all the complaining PF had been doing about needing to find a girlfriend, and several of the other girls really left for good. I later learned that he promised them that he would date them soon, but he was saying it to tons of girls. PF and I stayed friends, since I felt bad for him after I destroyed his group of girlfriends, as he maybe 1 or 2 guy friends, and soon he started showing me his MLP freaky side in school once we reached high school. He wore the classic MLP graphic t-shirts and let his neckbeard stubble grow, and he even joined a fandom club and an anime club to talk to other neckbeards. He came to my group of friends a lot since he knew me, and kept that same bubbly personality when around all girls. But he let it down somewhat if it was just me and him. He started getting awfully forceful, though, when it was just us. A lot of my friends would go home early if they didn't have a 7th period class, and I'd usually be alone after school, but PF started intentionally missing the bus to hang out with me to get a ride home late after school so he could chat with me. Warning, it gets a little violent here. I had to stay after school often on Wednesdays or Thursdays to make up PE classes I missed freshman and sophomore year because I am so thin and weak because of my smaller figure. I get low scores on athletic measurement tests on our PE units, and my teachers were sympathetic and let me do after-school bonus tests to make up for my low athletic ability. I feel like I mention PE a lot in these stories. I think it's the PE uniforms and the thought of girls being forced to change, get temped, naked on campus that gets neckbeards excited. Now, PF learned about this and I made him keep a secret since it was technically allowed, and the teachers were just doing me a favor since I could not control the size of my body, still looking like a fucking 11-year-old with little to no tits. Despite being 15 or 16, due to my small size, I also bruise easily, and this comes out in my favor. PF happily said he would keep it a secret if I would let him stay with me after school and watch me practice, etc., and say we were carpooling to the PE teachers who I worked with. Okay, sounds normal. I let him do this on the second or third time I have to stay after school, and he is with me. PF walks into the girls' locker room while I'm alone and very naked, getting into my PE uniform, and he just fucking stands there and stares at me as I am frozen in fear. I try to ask him what he's doing, and he says, "Well, you said I could join you," with the smuggest smirk I've ever seen on a human being before. I tell him to please leave, and he just grabs me and pins me naked against cold lockers, and I already know my back and wrists will bruise like no tomorrow. He lifts my hands above my head and presses his arm against my throat and threatens if I scream he will do something. But he's cut off by a female teacher coming into the locker room. He did not know that female PE teachers all stayed in the locker room after school to go over attendance sheets and participation scores, and I knew her very well by now. She called security and beat the shit out of PF so fast as I cried on the cold cement floor of that locker room with bruises on my neck, wrists, back, and stomach from him pressing his body against me so hard his belt buckle left a perfectly shaped bruise on the bottom of my ribs. PF didn't handle being held down so well by a buff woman and started cursing her out, thrashing madly and causing such a loud commotion that 3 other campus security guards came in just because of the noise he made and held him down. PF said something along the lines of, "She was asking me to do this. She said she was into rape." And he really admitted trying to rape me in front of the 4 school staff members after realizing that he could not wiggle free from 3 buff ex-Marine volunteer yard duties. Like the dumbass he was. He was expelled because he was caught sneaking into the girls' locker room even after school and was seen holding a naked girl off her feet against a locker, and all those bruises on me were more than enough proof, along to admitting that he was trying to rape me. This is the one thing I can say my high school has ever done for me, but I have to thank that PE teacher I talked with a lot, because she said she personally resigned and filed a case with the school if they did not expel PF for what he did, because she has never seen a more violent boy his age doing those things to a girl that looked like me.